So one of my first big gigs in this industry was for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Out of the Shadows, which shot in Buffalo, was shot on the 33. And it's actually, I believe, where I met you, Harry. Yeah. And that was one of those things that, like, I came out of college, out of Buff State, and I was a television and film arts major. And then I didn't know what to do with my film degree. And I decided to go somehow make a feature film in Dwelling. And then after that was out, I was like, oh, okay, what do I do now? And luckily that spring is when Turtles came into town. Mm-hmm. And I was able to get hired on as a production assistant. And I got to say, like, a lot of the main infrastructure of crew, I think, began as a production assistant on that film. Yeah. I mean, you know, you're talking about we're talking about Cassandra Lyons, we're talking about Frank Coppola, David Butler, you know, Greg Lamberson have been doing stuff for years, but like he worked as a production assistant on this film as well. You know, Chaz Struthers from Rochester, Cash Costner and Matt Fleck were both running around doing locations work. Yeah. It was a really awesome experience to have us all down.
There's a lot of people. They had like a whole army on that.
We had an army of people. And when you usually think production assistants, you think, oh, you know, I'm going to go get coffee for people, or, you know, I'm going to run water. Yeah. Because we were traffic cones, man.
Yeah. For a good portion of it too, I was in really no man's land. I remember thinking, man, this is probably the closest I'm ever going to feel to being homeless. I was standing on a street corner.
And it was overnights, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was overnight.
It was like, for like 10 days, something like that. Yeah. It was like 10 days of overnights, and it was...
What was it, 15-hour day or something?
Yeah, 15, 16-hour days.
Really long
and
hours.
we were on the east side of Buffalo.
Yeah,
we were smack on the 33. Right, 33. And so everything was happening below on the 33 because it was all stunts. It was all second unit stunt stuff with cars and flips and special effects and explosions. And we needed to basically keep people away from looking down on the actual highway. So we're like, every PA had a street corner that we were stationed at. And once it got to a certain part of the night, you're just basically like, okay, what do we do? You know, and we had Greg Hinneman, the late Greg Hinneman. He was a wonderful guy. Yeah. He brought like Tootsie Rolls and handed it out to people.
I remember. So I didn't work on that movie. You know, at the time I was, you know, more on the talent side.
Yeah.
Right? So like I wasn't doing any production crew work, so I didn't get a chance to work on that. But of course, you know, Harry and I would talk, and I remember it was challenging for Harry because he's this white guy on the east side of Buffalo telling people, "Yeah, you can't do that."
Yeah. Believe you me, right. I was not comfortable at the beginning.
Yeah, it was.
But by the end of it, so many people were so nice. I remember people bringing me food. Like neighbors. I remember
building relationships.
This one woman whose house I was outside of in particular. Every night that I got there around 6 p.m. when things were starting. She was just coming home from work, and every morning when I was getting ready to leave,
that's it.
She was
getting
That's
a black
ready
mama for you.
And it was like I saw her at the beginning of my day and at the end of the day for about a week straight. By the end of it, I felt like we were best friends.
You had a black mama for a week. Took care of you, boy.
They were looking out for me too. I mean, the community really.
It did. They had the Peacemakers over there on the east side, and it was a really big learning curve and experience because it was cold. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'm
telling you, I learned that if you are on set, especially overnight or outside, you should always dress way more than you need to. Like
that's when we learned it.
Look like the abominable snowman. Like,
we had to
bring our own, crazy.
Yep, we had to bring our own backpack with
keep
snacks.
Staying warm. You know, it's a survival
keep feet
mode.
warm. And
so this is a real pay your dues moment here. Because what you're describing does not sound desirable, but the lesson is that this was a core group of people that really formed a community out of this, right?
Correct. And like I said, this was kind of the epitome of like, oh, where does it begin? Mm-hmm. Especially when, you know, you need to learn what does a production assistant do. And we're safety. We're locking up an area for safety for pedestrians and regular people who live in this area to make sure that when these stunts and the explosions go off, that they're not getting hurt.
Yeah.
And even though we had one night we hear ring over our walkies, shots fired.
Oh yeah.
Because there was someone down the block from us.
Didn't have nothing to do with the production. Nothing to do with the production, no.
City living.
Gang, gang.
Yep.
But one thing to say back to the community aspect, I think there was a real camaraderie too amongst the group of us who were together.
We
and
grew a lot.
One thing I'll say, I remember, we had such far points of where we were stationed, but oftentimes we would come and meet in the middle with the other person who was near you, just to kind of check in on the other person. So Frank Coppola, I remember I'd meet him halfway down the block for just these little check-ins halfway through.
And it really taught us the importance of using a walkie-talkie too, because we were so far from the next person that it's this is, you have to learn the lingo and you have to know how to communicate and communicate thoroughly. And it was really interesting. And I love then when we opened up the overpasses some nights so people can actually gather in and watch the stunts. And it was really a fun time. And then lucky enough, I was actually selected to go help be in charge of the helicopter base camp. So it was me and another PA.
Where was that at?
So it was actually it was up
Northampton,
top,
right?
yeah, Northampton up top where base camp was, but then to the right they had 2 helicopters that played. One was camera, and the other one was
picture.
One was picture. Yeah. And so me and this other PA were in charge of it. So we got to flip to channel 1 and hear the actual first AD and hear the director and they knew us by name, and now we were getting nervous because now it was okay, we need to make sure that they're ready to go on liftoff. But the first night that I found out about that I was now moved over to do this for the last 2 nights, I looked up who the pilot was for the helicopter, and this man had literally done every single picture shot from a helicopter aerial for
that was a real
the last
cowboy.
15 years.
Wow.
For every movie that you could
thing
possibly think.
He was the guy before drones.
Yeah, exactly.
He was the guy.
That was it. It was
Wow.
this guy. Every motion picture you can possibly think of, they went to him to do aerial shots.
Cool.
Crazy. And it was so much so it was I want to kind of get this guy's autograph. This is incredible. Unfortunately, I learned, I think it was 5 or so years after that, he actually did end up passing away in a
No.
Oh, jeez.
in a helicopter
Telling you,
crash.
he
Wow.
flew
Oh my
like a
gosh.
cowboy, though.
But
He
yeah,
really did.
I mean,
that
he
stuff's
was
insane.
weaving in and
he was a daredevil how he flew it.
so close to down near the
He was
light?
practically
Yeah, how did that go
under the
with the 33?
overpass, it seemed like.
well, you
it
have
was
what happened to the guy near you, was it? Or
With the house that was... Yeah, so there was a house on a particular corner of Humboldt Parkway. This man had spent probably years putting lawn ornaments and tchotchkes throughout his house. It looked like, some crazy thing, but the helicopter passed real low and just it looked like a tornado. And I remember hearing him come out screaming.
What is going on?
He was
Oh my
saying that the
gosh.
fish, it done blew the fish out of his pond. I could hear it over the PA who was closest. I could hear him screaming over his wall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
They had to, the production had to run right over there, probably cash with a check.
yeah, right.
Right. Cash came with the check.
Cash with the cash.
That was a super exciting time for Buffalo, though, because it was one of the first times our city got shut down for a film. That was a big win for Tim Clark bringing that in, and it sort of kicked off film in Buffalo.
Yeah, for sure. That was, luckily that was with Paramount, and from there, I think Jamie Buckner visited on that one, and we had a bunch of other executives from Paramount, and then they ended up coming back. They came back for A Quiet Place 2. They came back for Paranormal Activity. It was just here we are, and we literally let them own a highway,
Yeah.
which is
Where else in the world can you do that? Right?
Yeah,
do whatever you want.
major
Go ahead.
thoroughfare like that.
Yeah.
The most nerve-wracking moment on that, though, wasn't the helicopter. It was I was brought down on set the one time, and they handed me the footage from the camera. And they said, okay, bring it up to base camp to the production office.
Protect it with your life.
And all it was is holding onto it, because that's what they do on every single major motion picture. At the end of the night, when everything's in the can, and this is way back when there was an actual film can, they hand it to the least.
They find the person they want to scare the living crap out of.
And they hand it to them, and they say, okay, you're in charge of the footage. Take it to the production office.
Oh, my gosh.
And I remember that night, they handing it to me and be like, oh, my God,
Yeah.
this is the most nerve-wracking thing, is drop it, lose it.
Whoa.
The whole day's work is gone.
Can't put that in your pocket either.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
So that was absolutely crazy, but it was an amazing experience. And, in the moment, I was probably like, oh, my God, this is ridiculous. But you look back on it, it's really a fond memory.
Cool.
That's a remarkable intro to the film world for you. How about you intro episode 3
Yeah, right?
of Podcasting Buffalo?
So we are, episode 3 of Podcasting Buffalo, and we want to kind of jump into our call sheet real quick to see what have we been up to. And it's been a lot of casting in a few months that usually are pretty dead here in Buffalo. So we have right now, I know the feature film, The Yeti, is wrapping up.
Yeah, they're wrapping up. We had a chance to cast a few day players in that, as well as some background actors, placing some doubles, as well in there. Some good work, for the city. It really was. Some actors getting some work in there. We got a chance to visit set.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It was amazing, right?
Yeah, props to Frank Coppola and all of his production design, because they're shooting this entire film on a soundstage.
Yeah.
It's the woods, right? I saw some pictures.
It's the woods.
It's the wood, but not only
Inside.
did he just create, of course, like they created this woods environment, but the cabins, there is a cage for the monster that looks so real and so authentic.
Awesome.
Kudos to Frank and the art department.
It looks phenomenal, and the way that Joel Froome is lighting this too, because the idea is like you're in the dark, you're in the Alaskan wilderness. How are you going to light? And they've gotten really, really smart with how they're approaching it. Using either a mixture of moonlight, and they had torches, and the one bunker that they had, they like have a little space in the ceiling so moonlight can come through, so you could see,
awesome.
It was really, really an awesome set. And they're wrapping up here, and they're lucky enough that we were able to do some photo doubles with them, because we had some actors conflicts that they needed to they weren't able to act together, so they used our double on one side to the other. And it's indie filmmaking at its finest, but it looks fantastic. It's and it's all Buffalo made, so
Awesome.
Really excited to see what that ends up turning out with. And the acting's been good. So, and then we have Fred Olen Ray's coming back.
Yeah,
right?
so we have Fred Olen Ray coming back. I would say probably for his, I'm going to go out on a limb here.
246.
Yeah, I was going to, but Christmas movie that's shot in Buffalo, I would say probably, we're probably over 20.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Something like that,
East Aurora.
We do it well.
Absolutely. We do it well here. Buffalo is a perfect environment for that. We don't have palm trees. We don't have skyscrapers. Buffalo can be anywhere USA. And, we have some great locations. We have great environments. We have, villages, the weather here. So Fred, really enjoys it here. He loves, Buffalo itself. He loves the food here. So he keeps coming back. So we're in the process of casting his film right now. We have day players available, as well as background, that we're casting. And yeah, it should be a great time. We're shooting for like 15 days.
When they're doing a winter scene, do they prefer it? Like, is there value to it actually being snowy, or does that hurt because it's like, oh, we got to keep everyone warm?
Well, let me just tell you this, because I've been featured in a lot of Fred Ray's movies, and he shoots in the cold.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just keep it like there's he's a big stickler of authenticity.
Okay.
And it's been temperatures below freezing, and we're outside, and a lot of the, some of the guys that he brings from his crew, are from LA,
Freezing.
and yeah, they are out there, so it's really a great experience. And not only that, the area, the people, that we cast, that we put in the background, and the neighbors in the just the local neighborhood, they love what he does.
Oh, yeah.
So it's full support, and the movies turn out great.
No, he does great work, and I mean, he was one of the first people that I did PA for.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it might have been before or after, but I've done it like 3 or 4 times on his film early on after Ninja Turtles, and I've AD'd for him too, and it's really, it's one of those sets where it's lower budget, but it's where you learn the grit and grime of the industry.
Absolutely.
And as either a background actor or crew member, and it's a great opportunity for both, because sometimes it's really hard to get a speaking role.
Oh yeah.
And these films roll in, and they want local actors as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And we've had a huge handful of local actors who've had speaking roles that are on these dozens of Christmas movies.
Absolutely.
take
Yeah.
place here.
But it's also rewarding, man. Like, I love going through our local auditions and submitting them, and then when we get someone that maybe doesn't normally get cast, I'm rooting for them.
Oh, yeah.
And it's such a, as an actor, it's such a morale booster, and it's encouragement to keep going. You know what I mean? Whenever you could see your work on the screen and it's in a professional production, it's big for the morale and just the motivation of an actor. So we get a chance to give out those roles pretty often here, and it's just great for what we do.
And Fred's a good communicator too for what he's looking for.
Oh,
so
man.
I mean, like even the other day when he was going through giving us feedback, it was in seeing who he was giving feedback to. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is fun. Like, oh, I really hope they get it. I really hope this person gets it. And that's good, because sometimes it's tough to get that feedback from certain directors, depending on how big the projects are. And Fred will tell you what he's thinking.
Oh, absolutely. And he's been here enough times. Sometimes he'll repeat actors, that he really likes. But more importantly, and what people don't understand is, he also goes through the process of like, he casts, but then we also have to get approval from the network.
Yeah.
So the network has their hand in it as well. And they know, what they want to see on the screen. So it's a combination of all that, but they love Buffalo, and we love them coming here.
I mean, the good thing too is like it proves that, if you get a handpicked by Fred, he would be willing to fight for you against a network too. So I mean, it shows that Fred at least cared for your audition and everything as a director too.
Absolutely.
To push for you.
It's I just had a call with another actor regarding this movie that Fred wanted him for a different role, right? That he didn't audition for.
Yeah.
And that I think that what actors have to understand is that I always encourage actors to audition as much as possible, because that's your opportunity to be seen by the casting director, to be seen by the producers, to be seen by the director. And you may not land that one, right? But now they may like your look, they may like your choices, and then you get selected for something completely different.
There's a common thread so far here, which is really like in the Turtles era, and now you really got to put yourself out there to be seen and noticed and become part of this community.
For sure.
That's a very thorough breakdown of the winter movies happening in Buffalo. Do we want to take a look at a Hollywood movie?
Let's switch gears a little bit here. We're going to get into breakdown of the scene, and it's my court today.
All right.
And with this, I want to actually break down a scene from Inglourious Basterds.
Ooh, nice.
All right.
Nice.
It is
Light.
the opening. Exactly. Listen, we want to talk about acting and putting on a master craft here. It is going to be anything that Quentin Tarantino writes and produces and puts out there. And for me, it's the opening scene of Inglourious Basterds. So let's take a look at this.
Nice.
For all of your insurance needs, make sure you contact Craig Willoughby over at Willoughby Insurance, 716-885-8100. Make sure you ask for Craig and tell him Casting Buffalo sent you for special rates. My boy Willoughby will when nobody will.
Look, if you work in film, you know how brutal the hours can be. Long days, unpredictable schedules. There's barely enough time to eat healthy for yourself, let alone work out before or after set. Staying in shape almost feels impossible. That's exactly why Ascend Fitness remote coaching exists. Whether you're on set or just juggling a busy life, this isn't a generic program. It's 100% customized to you, your schedule, your goals, your equipment, and even how you feel day to day. You'll get a fully personalized plan, expert coaching, and real accountability so you always know exactly what to do, no matter how crazy life gets. And right now, they're offering an exclusive deal. Sign up for 1 month and get the second month free, but only for the first 10 people. Spots will go fast. Go to trainascend.com and book your free coaching call before they're gone.
Looking for an unforgettable dining experience in Buffalo? Head to Daniela Restaurant, where every bite feels like home. Whether you're craving classic Italian favorites or exploring something new, Daniela's menu has something for everyone, from handcrafted pastas made with love and the finest ingredients. And it's not just about the food. Daniela's warm, welcoming atmosphere is perfect for a date night, family dinner, or special celebration. Plus, with a carefully curated wine list, the perfect pairing is just a sip away. So why wait? Head over to Daniela today. Come for the food. Stay for the experience.
Do you love horror movies? Here on Getting Scarried Away, we sit down to talk about what we love about the genre, shout out fellow horror creators, and spill buckets of useless horror knowledge for your next trivia night. Join me, Ricky Needham, and my co-host, Rhiannon Needham, as we dive headfirst into your favorite horror movies. Subscribe today anywhere you get your podcasts.
Il me semble que nous en avons terminé. Ah, mesdames! Je vous remercie pour le temps que vous m'avez consacré. Nous ne vivrons pas persuadés plus longtemps, donc monsieur, mesdemoiselles, je prends congé de vous et je vous dis adieu.
All right, we can stop it there.
Crazy. Wow.
All right, so we can stop it there. Yeah, I mean, it's brilliantly acted.
Man, it's so much. It's so much of to say about this scene.
Right.
The cinematography is absolutely amazing, right? So like the shot where they're looking through the floor, that little small, and there you see their eyes, that had to take hours.
Right.
Just that one shot. That had to take, I mean, for them to light that perfectly, for their eyes to be perfectly lined up, okay, where we see everything, we see the blue in their eyes, the camera's pulling back. That was a half a day just for that shot.
Yeah, probably 100%. I mean, Quentin Tarantino is a master. We know that. But what's great about this scene is he doesn't shoot it with any type of crazy type of angles. He shoots it with coverage.
Yeah.
We have a two-shot.
We got that
two-shot
dolly, that
master.
motion dolly, though, in
So-
the beginning. That
Yeah,
motion
that's
dolly
the levels
serious.
there, showing those levels. That's pretty cool
Yeah.
and unique, I think, too.
What he does is he basically, I'm going to start with a master. I'm going to do a simple over the shoulder, single, and then when the tables start to turn, where he goes from, hey, from the moment Hans Landa walks in, he has the power. And then with the movement of the camera around to Mr. Lepidite, and then we pedestal down to show the reveal. It's just such an amazing reveal. It's a masterclass in suspense. And what he does is Tarantino takes the ticking time bomb theory from Alfred Hitchcock. I don't know if you ever heard about this before. So basically, Alfred Hitchcock said if you're in a room and you show the bomb right away and sit there and say, you're in a room. So here's the ticking time bomb theory. You're in a room, we're talking in this podcast, and all of a sudden a bomb goes off. Boom.
Right.
We have a few seconds of us reacting to the excitement and terror from that scene. But if we start talking inside this room and then we cut away to reveal that there's a bomb underneath the table, and then go
builds.
and sit there and say that in 5 minutes a bomb is going to go off, and then it continues to us to have this conversation. Now the audience is in that suspense. Yeah. And what works so well with that scene is how long the scene is. Because he's literally taking suspense and stretching it out like a rubber band.
Stretching it out because every time you think it's going to maybe be over, something extends it.
Yes.
Right.
And it's
like
using...
He wants a second glass of milk.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
and it shows, I mean, the playfulness that Christoph Waltz has as that character is, again, like this prop work and this playfulness of like, maybe you do have charge of the scene. You know, I'll have another glass of milk. Let me ask you, what's my name? You know what I mean? Like asking him permission to use his pipe.
Yeah.
He's giving the illusion of having him in control. But
it was cast perfect.
oh, amazing to cast. And again, going into like camera work, Tarantino traps us in that room.
Yeah. Every angle.
Every angle traps
angle.
us. And
sure.
he breaks the 180 rule twice and traps us in the corner of that room where we can't get to the front door. We can't get around the table. And we're just like the family itself underneath the floorboards. We're stuck. We're watching it happen. And there's nothing we can do except for watch the tension eventually come to a head and explode.
In that 2-shot also, it's like the tables, the lighting comes down on the table and bounces up, almost like a ghost story.
Oh, let me just say,
horrific.
the faces were perfectly lit, right?
But
like
still
that was
looked natural.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that's the thing about it is like there's nothing that suggests you're not in a farmhouse.
Right.
Like
Nope, he's not afraid to
They
hold
use
on
windows.
the
They
scene,
use a lot of things for
natural
sunlight.
lighting.
Right.
You know, it's just it.
he's a master of period stuff too.
He is.
When he does
He is.
period stuff, there's no skimping on it. You know
And
what
to
I mean?
open a film with this, and open it with a character who I remember seeing this in theaters, and within 30 seconds of seeing Christoph Waltz as Hans, being like, this guy's gonna win an Oscar.
Yeah, I remember
Like
that.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Just the way that he like speaks and uses his props and use these like guttural sounds of just like little habits and tics. Like he is so sold in that. And then you add in, I guess the big takeaway that I want to get is not only from an actor standpoint, but as a filmmaker standpoint, is that like these actors are doing amazing work. He's got a great monologue.
Big time.
Huge scene work of them going back and forth, because I mean, the actor who's the farmer is doing fantastic too.
Dude, the guilt that he feels when he tells him,
Yeah.
you know, that he's harboring, you know, it's like, I mean, you see the tears come, but you feel it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You feel it. He did
You
an
feel it
excellent
in
job.
you got that feeling in the back of your throat.
Oh, yeah.
Just like ooh.
The whole time, that million-mile stare right through him, just knowing he's the enemy and he's got to go through these motions, just very, very powerful.
It's incredibly powerful, and I think as a filmmaker, it's not only do you have to serve your actors as a director, but you have to then put those acting chops and performances on a pedestal by how you move the camera, because he is basically just. He's in the driver's seat for your performance and the way that he moves the camera in this scene.
Even you got to think from the opening shot, the dolly shot around the table, you know, a lot of actors, you know, even though the camera's moving, you also still have to cheat to the camera.
Yes.
Right. And like those actors, they do that, you know, when that camera comes to their right side, you know, they're also cheating a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And that's playing to the camera. That's actors knowing, you know, where the camera's going and the director knowing exactly where to put it.
Yep. And what I think is so great about Tarantino too is he's okay with holding on shots. He's okay with reinventing the idea of like just coverage to hold and get what you need, because what's coming out of their mouth and their performance is so much more important.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff where we're just sitting in profile shots where we're not even seeing their whole faces.
Right.
But it's because he's tied you in a knot of how important this conversation is of just two people speaking, which basically 90% of movies are.
Yeah. But the stakes, it's the stakes. That's
It's setting up the stakes
Absolutely.
and letting your actors play those stakes so extremely well.
Could you imagine being in the room on this set and feeling that tension and just being a fly on the wall?
Well, realistically, they probably shot this over a few days.
Yeah, I was gonna say that that the one scene with them looking through, the foot, that took a half day.
Yeah.
So yeah, this scene probably took 3-4 days.
So
to shoot.
imagine like you having to hold that tension for 3 or 4 days of shooting.
That'd be an intense time.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't get sucked into it or have to be feeling that tension yourself, minding your P's and Q's. But let's transition into some set etiquette and get some tips of our own on what it's like to be on a set.
That's right. So for set etiquette today, in sort of keeping with the theme a little bit, in some ways, the word or the term today is going to be French hours.
Okay.
And not only does this relate to the French in
That we just
Inglourious
seen, right.
Basterds, but also when we talk about movies like Fred movies, indie movies, sometimes you may encounter schedules that are not what a larger budget movie might afford. You know what I mean? So as an actor, I think it's critical that you're not only privy to what that might be, but prepared for it too, right? So
For sure.
French hours, sometimes it means that you work through lunch, sometimes it means lunch is there, but there isn't really a designated time. Sometimes it means that, you're kind of keen to understand that you may be shooting for 15, 16 hours straight and there's not going to be any overtime either. You know what I mean? So it's
That's
kind
a
of
long day.
Yeah, I mean, like the usual setup for on set in general is that, you're working 12-hour days, most likely. Actors are usually paid by the 8 hours. And at the 6-hour mark from when your call is usually when lunch is. Typically on major films, you'll have 15 minutes when you arrive to have a breakfast. And that'll be out of your time, and then you go into your day. And then at the 6-hour mark, we break for lunch, and then we come in after Last Man. Last Man is basically every cast member, every crew member goes through the entire lunch line, and then a PA calls, okay, now that we've gone through, a half hour from now is when we're back in from lunch.
In the corporate media world, there's a lot of French hours going on.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get in and out of there as soon as possible sometimes.
With French hours, what they do is basically we are going to provide the meals for you, and you kind of like work through lunch, and when you have a moment, dependent based on your key, when you're going to break to go make sure that you can eat. It happens. It's called French hours because it happens mostly more in Europe. Or smaller indie films, depending on what it is.
I was going to say, I worked on a couple films, that, especially if they're doing overnights, if it's a second meal or something like that, those guys are usually working through it.
And I mean, like sometimes it's extremely useful towards the end of the shoot, where if you have not much left to cover for the film, so we have a low page count, and we have a feeling that we're not going to hit a whole 10-hour day. Personally, sometimes it's like I'd rather just work through lunch and go home a little early than having to stop the machine to keep it going. But again, there's also IATSE union regulations and SAG regulations that go into this, but that's kind of the room where French hours plays.
I'm thinking, though, in the local indie world, the director might as well wear a beret and have a baguette because there's just French hours all the time on some of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and what we try to do is, I mean, the films that we cast, we try to make sure that there are rules, right?
Yeah.
Like you're being taken care of, and every commercial, anything.
Well, I think communicating too is the
Yes.
biggest thing. Like if you're going to be a production that's going to do that, it's just good to make sure everybody understands that. You know what I mean? Because people
don't
know what
work
they're
well.
signing up for.
And they don't work well when they're hungry.
No.
Right.
I certainly don't.
Yeah, it makes bad attitudes, bad performances.
No.
You don't want people to be hungry.
And knowing your labor laws too. What are you allowed to work, and what do you do, and how does it usually work as an actor. You know, on a feature film, you're getting paid for 8 hours, and everything over 8 hours is OT. And then when does it hit double OT? After 12?
So yeah, I was gonna
I
say,
think it's 12.
12. You get it's time and a half.
Time and a half.
And then after 12,
No, after 8, it's time and a half.
right.
After
Yeah, that's
12,
what
it's
it is.
double.
It's double.
Yeah. But then, like you have on commercial worlds, it's 10 hours. So you have a whole day to do it. And some contracts hit for 8, depending on if it's union or non-union. So it's making sure that you know. And then you have the whole entire labor laws when it comes to like child permits and how long they have to be on set and if there's schooling involved. We'll get into that more on another episode. But yeah, knowing how a set works and that everybody's on the same page, it's really important.
Should we recast a film right now?
Yeah, let's go.
I think so.
All right, so
Time.
we want to recast this week Ghostbusters. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
Another classic.
I know.
Yeah.
We got
Gotta
Ray
get the
Parker here.
Oh, man. It's
Right.
you know, this is going to be a tough one. It's a challenge because everyone loves this film.
Such a
Iconic.
classic, man. Of
Iconic
course. You know, this was, I think that there's certain movies that my childhood was like based off of, you know, we're talking Back to the Future, but Ghostbusters is definitely one of them, you know.
Ghostbusters to me is almost like a perfect film. All right. There's a rare amount that I can sit there and say, this is perfect.
Which part, though? You talking about the original?
The original.
Okay.
Original
Okay.
1984
Yeah,
Ghostbusters. I mean, to me, you got like Back to the Future. You have Raiders of the Lost Ark. You have Chinatown.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs. And then one of them is Ghostbusters to me. It was the perfect amount of just capturing light in a bottle and it working.
Yeah.
So, and they've tried to remake it. They've tried these sequels. But what would we do if they came to us and said, we want to remake the film? How would we cast it?
So we're doing Venkman, Stantz, Spengler, and Winston?
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
All right.
Core crew.
So it's a core crew. So I'm really curious how each person's going to kind of approach.
Are we just going to do one roll at a time?
Yeah, let's go one roll at a time. I think,
Okay.
for there.
Where do we start?
Go?
Yeah. You know what? So let's we're going to talk about Peter Venkman.
All right.
Right? That's
Yeah.
Bill Murray's character. I thought Peter Venkman was, he was like a good comedian, but he was like a smart aleck, and he was like the funny one of the group. So I'm going to recast that with Will Ferrell.
Interesting.
All right.
Yeah, I want Will Ferrell in that role.
I like
Okay.
the Will Ferrell move. All that. Cool. Who you got?
So I think my people that I was thinking of are more, I was thinking of a more younger sort of incarnation, but I went with, I picked John Mulaney
John Mulaney's
Okay.
a good choice as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
because he embodies that sort of like, could be a smart bookie guy like Bookworm, which I think Bill Murray had some, he was professor sort of, you have to have that astute sort of side to you, which I think he does. But then he also has the funny, silly side,
Yeah.
For me, this was tough. I went in two different directions here, and I kept on playing in the world of like, my first thought was, if this movie was made in the mid-2000s and Judd Apatow was doing it, who would I cast for that? So like, first I was like, oh, maybe I go like Vince Vaughn territory, which is in the same world as like Will Ferrell and John Mulaney. But then I took a step back and I said, no, let me do a totally new twist. Let me do it based off of right now, actors right now. And the way that I see the original Ghostbusters is it's about a bunch of schmucks. It isn't about a bunch of comedians. It's schmucks. It's just like it's starting a new business. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And the guy in front is literally just in there to make money. And the only one who really
They hadn't tested the proton.
no,
pump.
they haven't
Nothing,
tested
right?
shit. No.
nothing on
No,
it,
and
right.
like Ray Stantz is like the heart of it because he actually cares about it, and so does Egon. But like Venkman doesn't give a crap. He's just there to like, okay, how do we make money? How do we take advantage of things? And
He lost his job. He's out on the streets.
He's out on the
needs
streets
this.
now.
he
He's
needs
making Stantz buy a firehouse and like double his mortgage. You know what I mean? Like just let's just invest and go into it. Whatever. So I went a totally different route, and I'm starting Peter Venkman with Kieran Culkin.
Oh my gosh, that's very interesting because I almost picked him for somebody else, but then I crossed him out. I'll get to that later.
So Kieran Culkin, he's right now, he's in the know.
He's a
and
good actor.
He's a fantastic actor. He's been around the block a few times, but
Started in Home Alone.
started in Home Alone all the way
Yeah.
back when is the brother. But I just love his vibe because, and it's so funny, even if you see him in like interviews, he just has this like, again, sly, like smart aleck type feel. He's got this handsomeness. He's in Succession right now, which is the gigantic show. And part of the reason why I also chose Kieran comes to why I chose another actor for a similar character in this. So let's move to who do we have?
Well, for Venkman, I had Andy Samberg
That's a good one.
That was a good
because
choice.
he's got to be
Very good
silly.
choice.
He's got to be unsuccessful with the ladies, but trying. And I feel like those are things that
That's a great
Andy
choice.
Samberg
Yeah.
pulls off. He's good looking, but not great looking.
Yeah.
I think he's a Venkman to
I like
me.
it. I like it.
Ray Stantz
Ray
next.
Stantz, fine. So this is Ray Stantz. This is Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. I'm sticking with my crew of guys like Will Ferrell. I'm gonna go with Kevin James.
I like it.
I'm going with Kevin James for Ray. That's what I'm going.
I can see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Of course.
It works. It
For
works.
sure.
Absolutely works.
I mean, if you went Farrell, you could go for John C. Reilly as Ray Stantz, but he has to be less silly than usual. But they could be a duo. He
That
could pull
could
it off with a
also
look.
work.
No, but I like the Kevin James theory because I mean Ray Stantz is kind of just like this. He's pushed around a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like he could play. Kevin James can play that
Easily.
being pushed around
Easily.
a bit.
Yeah.
So my pick for the Dan Aykroyd role was Jonah Hill.
Okay, I get that.
We matched. We matched. I have Jonah Hill as well.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
We got to figure
Hold on,
out
hold
what
on.
happens if the
Fat Jonah Hill or skinny Jonah?
Oh,
Which one? Which one? Because it's two guys here, okay? We got one guy that's skinny, and then we got the other guy that's overweight here. So which one you want?
No, to me it's it doesn't matter. I think Jonah Hill just brings this. He can get pushed around.
Yeah.
You see it in every movie that he's been in, like Get Him to the Greek and
Yep.
for
It's immediately what I thought of.
yeah, he's bumbling, but like the scene that stuck in my mind is when they walk out and he just paid the more like he doubled his mortgage. He didn't even ask for a percent, and he's like, and I can just see Jonah Hill being
Doing
stuck
that,
in that
yeah.
world, or like the State Puff Marshmallow Man
Yep.
scene where he's
Yeah.
just
Oh,
like
yeah.
he just popped in there.
Yeah,
like I could
right.
totally see Jonah Hill being in that world. I mean, to me, I think it's like a little bit of an older one. I'm playing everyone in their like 30s.
I got you.
A little bit
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're late 30s, 40s. You know what I mean? Like been around the block a little bit, but yeah, we match on that one. So for sure. Who did you have?
I had, and I don't like it anymore. But like, I feel like modern movies, like everyone's like overly attractive. So Chris Pratt, but more in the Parks and Rec days.
Okay.
So somewhere in the middle, somewhere in the
Yeah.
middle, because like he's excited, he's wide-eyed enthusiasm about everything, he's pumped, but when you go too far into like Marvel universe and tough guy version, it's a no. Somewhere in the middle of him.
In the
being
middle.
We
Parks
made up a
and
good
Rec.
point because I feel like you're right. Everyone is handsome and model perfect now, and it's like you look at the original Ghostbusters.
No, man.
They're just a couple of guys, aren't
a
they?
couple of schmucks, like
Yeah,
you said.
that's all it
right?
is.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's what I like about like Jonah Hill in that role. That's good. And even, like a tame version of John C. Reilly, like normal guy,
Yeah.
not overly attractive Hollywood
And that
guy.
was kind of my world of thinking overall is like, where are we going normal? So like we have Egon, and for me, I went with staying in my world. So I have Kieran Culkin, Jonah Hill, Jesse Eisenberg for
Okay,
Egon.
I see that. I see
And
that.
a lot of this was influenced for Kieran Culkin's and Jesse Eisenberg's new film, together a real pain. Jesse Eisenberg directed, wrote this movie, and the way that they play off of each other is fantastic.
Didn't Harold Ramis write Ghostbusters? Was he?
He did.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah.
So, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He
So
wrote it?
you can literally pass it over to Jesse Eisenberg and be like,
gotta say, that's
what
pretty
would
spot
you
on.
do?
Yeah.
He wrote a bunch of good movies.
And
too.
since they're good friends, like there was the same exact idea. Like they brought Bill Murray in because he's able to just plus everything. And this is my thought with Kieran Culkin as well. It's
Yeah, I
he's just
could
he
see
shows up just like Bill Murray does,
Yeah.
and just does his work and just pluses everything. And Eisenberg has this nervousness, but also like very extremely intelligent. And I would like to see him in that stronger, intelligent type role. That's been around the block a little bit, so he's my Egon.
Like it.
I think you nailed that one on the head. I got deadpan version of Bill Hader. So Bill, because he kind of has the look, he can pull off that weird guy who's just strange, but not in his too silly way, because he can go over the top.
No, I like Bill Hader choice as well. Yeah.
So this is the Harold Ramis, right?
Yes.
So for my pick for that character, I kind of went across the norms here, and I chose somebody who was not a white man. I went with the comedian Kumail Nanjiani. I don't know if you know him.
So he was actually in the newest Ghostbusters.
Was he really?
Frozen Empire.
I didn't even see that.
Did you cast him, Harry?
I didn't even see that.
He was. He is kind of the villain / hero in the new one. But the idea behind it is that like if they make a second sequel, he then becomes part of the team. So I think you are hitting the nail on the head. The idea of
Nice.
like a modern
Oh, wow.
comedian. He's funny.
Yeah.
You know,
he just seems like he could be a part of that team.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think you're
I like
definitely
it.
in line with
No, for sure.
where the studios are going at least.
Yeah. I don't know. Mine, I'm having trouble finding someone, especially on the younger side. The only character or the actor that I can possibly relate to Harold's character would be like Jeff Goldblum.
That works.
Jeff Goldblum.
100% works.
Definitely is,
You know,
is in line with the
Absolutely, right. He's in line with the character. He has a dry sense of humor. He can play a super scientist. You know, I'll take Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, yeah.
He did it in The Fly.
Of course.
Super scientist.
Of course.
I mean, he's a rock star in Jurassic Park, but he's still nerdy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now that works. All right, one left.
Winston.
Winston Zeddemore. Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson, man, made a great career off of this one role. I'm telling, like, Ernie's been in a lot of other things though, you know, and he's still working. He's doing like a TV show on BET called The Family Business. So Ernie's been around, but like this was his breakout role.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, we have never seen Ernie before that.
Well, and it wasn't even originally his role. They wanted Eddie Murphy.
Oh wow.
They wanted Eddie Murphy in this role, and the script had Winston as a huge fourth character. And then when they couldn't get Eddie,
Why couldn't they get Eddie? He just wanted to
Eddie's
party
too
all the
expensive.
I think
man.
at that
It's
point-
Eddie Murphy.
I
He
mean,
wanted to party all the
I mean, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's it,
I mean,
right.
we're talking about like Beverly Hills Cop days.
Yeah.
Like it was just, you know, you already have Bill Murray, or you can also pay Eddie Murphy on top of it. So it kind of went away. So they switched it, and they cast Ernie Hudson, and he came into the film thinking that it was still as big as a role as Eddie Murphy when he was in. So he
they
thought he
cut
was
it.
going to roll in and
Yeah,
be like,
right,
this
right,
is
right,
my
right.
big shot. I'm going to be this huge comedian and movie star. And then he shows up halfway through the movie as just, I'm here for a paycheck.
Yeah.
And just there. And it wasn't what he wanted, but in a way, it became what he wanted.
It became, listen, man, this guy got a chance to eat off that franchise. You know, it's still, you know, he's one of the Ghostbusters. That's iconic.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So no matter what, yeah, you still won.
And in the future Ghostbusters, he's like the billionaire guy who
He was always
he's
been the
guy
heart
who
of it.
broke
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So
yeah.
they kind of like had some retribution on that, where his character was somewhat minimized in the earlier ones, and later down the road they have him as like the success story of the group.
Well, yeah, and because like all of these, the other three are, they know the paranormal, they've worked in the paranormal, they're trying to create this business, and then you have a guy who's just like a working man, blue collar, who walks in and says, "Hey, I need a job." he's kind of skeptical about everything,
Yeah.
and then like learns to know I've seen some serious shit.
Yeah,
You know,
right, right, for
and,
sure.
and is in it. So for Ernie Hudson as Winston Zeddemore, I went with Winston Duke.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah, okay. Did you know he's a UB alum? No, too.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
you didn't know that?
No, that's
Winston
amazing.
Duke, man.
So
Yeah, he
Winston Duke.
went to UB for sure.
And my idea behind Winston Duke is also like working man, large,
Oh, yeah.
funny.
Absolutely.
The way that he talks is like puts off dry comments. But I also wanted to go with a visual gag.
Oh yeah.
Kieran Culkin is 5'6". Jonah Hill is 5'7".
This guy is like a monster.
Jesse Eisenberg is 5'7". Winston Duke is 6'5".
Yeah, I was gonna say
And
he's a monster
I think it
here,
would be
man.
hilarious to see the four of them next to each
10
other.
inches
A
taller than
foot-
all of them.
Exactly. He's a foot taller than everybody, and it's just like these three schmucks, and then Winston, who's just a working man, showing up. And they're like, all right, the only one that actually should be probably putting on the proton pack is probably Winston. And I don't know. I think it would be a funny visual gag, and I think he's also like that dry sense of humor can play off all the others.
He's really great, man. You know, he went to the University at Buffalo undergrad, then went on to Yale, drama school, to be an actor. So the guy's great. Absolutely.
All right, so you're saying that we should get him for the expo, right?
Hey, something. for sure, right? He's got some Buffalo roots in there, man, I think for Winston's role, I'm going to go with Coleman Domingo, right? This guy is kind of hit the scene. He got his big break on like Fear of the Walking Dead, and he's really been popping up all over the place. He's in a Netflix series right now that's also Stephen McKinley Henderson is in, as well. Coleman Domingo. One of my
He looks
good
like Ernie
choice.
Hudson.
Absolutely. This guy's great
He
for
is
sure.
good. My choice for Ernie Hudson would be Hannibal Buress.
Oh,
That's a good
okay.
choice.
Cool.
Yeah. I like
Cool.
that.
With
I like
that, I
that.
feel like he's got kind of an average Joe vibe to me. Like he doesn't. I don't know. He could be just your average.
Well, he's a
person.
working man, right?
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah,
he's a guy. He's just a guy.
But he's also.
But he's a
funny.
comedian.
Yes.
He's a hilarious comedian.
Right.
No, I love that choice as well. He was high on my list too, and I was actually kind of going between. And then I thought like Winston Duke is just a different choice to come into it to play off of these guys, but I really like the Hannibal Buress.
I'm sticking with the Magic Mike version of Ghostbusters with Anthony Mackie.
Hey,
I don't know why
great.
they're
No,
also
for
good looking in
sure.
my world, but
You're making the ladies real happy.
right?
Yeah.
Well, you want to see Ghostbusters, and you need your girlfriend to be able to go too, and so you got to get
Yes.
these guys in there.
That's smart. That's
Good
smart.
choice on Aunt Mac.
I thought you were gonna go like Craig Robinson or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot tub time machine.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. No, that was
Which
good.
we cannot recast that one.
No. I mean, it's also. Here's the thing. I'm going to say it's too soon.
Sure.
When did Hot Tub Time Machine come
Longer
out?
than you think. It's like 8 years, maybe.
I know. No, I bet you it's longer.
No.
10?
Yeah, probably 10 at least.
12.
15.
Wow. Double that. All right.
Wow.
Not 8. All right. Well,
That sucks.
yeah.
Time flying by, man.
We need some Chernobyl to go back in time.
Right? Oh,
Yes.
man. All right, cool. So another recast there. Is there anything else that we're like kind of getting into right now that we need to put out there? No, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, man. Like,
No,
I
we're-
mean, make sure you're paying attention to our Casting Buffalo emails, our Instagram, our social medias. We have some speaking roles that are putting out there. We have some background roles. Background is a great way to break in. And we are going to have a lot more films coming to Buffalo.
Should be
in
a
the future.
busy.
It's gonna be a
should be a
busy
busy
year,
spring and summer.
Yeah,
ahead
we're
of
already
us.
getting a lot of
calls,
and hearing
absolutely.
things, and I think it's going to be a
Those
good year.
resumes ready.
Yeah, so make sure your headshots are updated, get those resumes ready, and pay attention to Casting Buffalo here on Podcasting Buffalo. That's a wrap.
I love you, Buffalo.